child would make more sense, or be more appealing to me.
Well, you have to think of sensitive in terms of its word origin. Now, the word sensitive came from the Latin word sensere, to feel. So the sensitive person feels more.
Yeah.
So the example I often give is, and that can lead to both very positive and very difficult consequences. For example, if I tapped you on the shoulder right now, you wouldn't feel any pain at all. But if you were not wearing a shirt and your skin was exposed, furthermore, if you had a burn on your shoulder, so your nerve endings were close to the surface, if I tapped you with the same force, you'd feel extreme, excruciating pain, even though the external event was no different.
Right.
So sensitivity magnifies the pain that we have. Sensitivity also leads to more creativity. So very often, the most creative people also have the most pain, which is why so many creative people escape from their pain through all kinds of dysfunctions like addictions and so on. So there's a real link between creativity and sensitivity, and creativity and sensitivity and suffering at the same time. That's the first point I would make. Now, the other thing goes back to what you said about.
So I want to just speak to this briefly because I relate to being in pain most of my life, to the point that avoiding or responding to the pain has become the dominant fear, meaning the fear being that the pain will grow faster than I can respond to it. And in some cases that is the case, meaning I track various metrics within my own psyche. And I remember, a panic point at age 38 where I realized I was on a continuing trajectory towards escalating bitterness, impatience, and cynicism, because I was not able to respond to the pain around the lack of cultural empathy in the United States fast enough. And so I was moving into anesthetics. And I was, and so I looked at my father's trajectory, who was another sensitive, who deteriorated into sadistic behavior towards himself and other people out of, I think, pain and frustration, which is a very terrifying thing to experience as a child. The rage and helplessness and cruelty of a helpless father, directed at me and those closest to him. And so I asked myself the question at the time, what did my father not do at age 38 that, if he had done it, might have moved the increasing frustration and bitterness in another direction? And I realized he never really went fully for everything that he wanted, full out. And so that began a year of doing everything on my bucket list, and putting $30,000 aside to do everything I could possibly do. And for 2 years after that, I felt a real cessation, meaning I went to Asia for the first time, first Philippines, then Thailand. I wrote 2 books, one called Into Me You See, a 300-page book specifically for partners and friends to break through the blockades of silence and invisibility in U.S. culture. And then when I discovered that Thailand was a 300 to 1,000% more feminine culture, meaning in one metric that spontaneous time, which is more feminine than structured time, which is more masculine, quality time, meaning open-ended, spontaneous, long time, as opposed to truncated, scheduled time, again, more feminine. And I experience 1,000% more feminine time in Thailand, which means I have more spontaneous quality time interactions in a month in Thailand than I do in a year in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then discovering the relief, to the pain in that environment. Then comes the panic of holding my breath and avoiding the pain that I go back into upon return to the US. The frustration of being walled off and walled in by power structures. For example, why don't I just move to Thailand? Well, the Thai business guidelines and visa guidelines, have nothing to do with my well-being, and not an entirely large amount of things to do with intelligence, or why can't I, build a tiny house community in the Bay Area? Well, the housing laws that make tiny homes illegal, again, nothing to do with my well-being or anyone else's, a lot to do with, with CC&Rs and various codes that were designed to increase property taxes and real estate values, not to create human well-being. And so, this deep grief and this deep pain is like a wave that can wash over me, and I can lose all consciousness in that wave and go under. And so, it leads to a frenetic paddling to come back up to the surface before being drowned in the next, wipeout wave. And the fact that I feel so alone, meaning I do not experience a method by which this culture allows those tidal wave drownings to become visible. Nobody who says, "How you doing?" wants that answer or knows how to respond. And so it escalates the sense of isolation rather than cessates it, because it's just an empty ritual. How you doing? I'm fine. Or how you doing? I'm going under a wave. Well, I don't have time to learn what a wave means, and I didn't really want the answer. See you later. Either way, there's isolation. And so this is an arena of culture that I would like to have integrated into our education system, so that the sensitives living through hell in our culture and the culture who doesn't understand the sensitives both have a chance to see and be seen, because there is a higher pain tolerance in any individual when the pain is acknowledged and compassionately empathized with by the individual, and when it is understood and empathized with by the larger community. And since the culture is going to, for the foreseeable future, create this level of pain for sensitives, it seems the least we could do as a culture is to create a framework where that pain is understood and empathized with.